How can a 40-year-old fighter jet stand up to an up-and-coming 21st-century naval aircraft? When Japan Air Self-Defense Force, JASDF, F-15J fighters roared into the air on May 26, 2025, swooping down on the Chinese Navy's Liaoning fleet, the answer to this lingering question in the minds of military observers was revealed in an almost brutal way, in the airspace about 200 kilometers north of the Diaoyu Islands in the East China Sea. It was not an even-keeled, this was not a standoff, but a crushing aerial encounter that crossed the technological generation gap. The event took place against the backdrop of an intense training exercise conducted by the Chinese Navy's Liaoning aircraft carrier formation in late May in the East China Sea, north of the Diaoyu Islands. The group, which has a luxurious lineup, is centered around the Liaoning aircraft carrier and includes the Type 055 10,000-ton destroyer, two Type 052D guided missile destroyers, Kikahar and Tangshan, as well as two Type 054 corvettes, Bianzhou and Dalian, Bianzhou, and Anyang ships, building a set of offensive and defensive, strong protection of the Far Sea combat system. The intensity of its training is especially noteworthy. In just 48 hours, the Liaoning flight deck carried out a total of about 90 flights of J-15 shipborne fighters and 30 shipborne helicopter takeoff and landing operations. Such high-frequency operation is close to the limit level of the U.S. Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carriers in real-world conditions, which clearly demonstrates the significant improvement and high degree of actualization of the Chinese Navy's carrier operation, ship-aircraft coordination and sustained combat capability. In the face of China's aircraft carrier formation in sensitive waters of the strong exercise, the Japanese side's reaction is fierce. The Maritime Self-Defense Force, MSDF, urgently dispatched the destroyer Takanami and the P-3C anti-submarine patrol aircraft to carry out close-range tracking and surveillance. The Air Self-Defense Force scrambled F-15J fighter jets from the Naha base in Okinawa and swooped into the exercise area. What makes the situation even more tense is that, according to the information on the scene, the Japanese fighter jets not only took the dangerous maneuver of approaching at low altitude, but there were even reports that they intentionally showed their belly-mounted missiles to make a naked threat of force. This series of actions, in the context of the Japanese government's high-level recently released frequently hope to improve relations with China signals, seems particularly eye-catching and full of contradictions. However, the Japanese F-15J fighter jets that intercepted the aircraft have become the most prominent symbol of this confrontation. These fighters have been in service for more than 40 years, and even after mid-cycle upgrades, the youngest of them is still more than 20 years old. Its core detection system still relies mainly on a mechanically scanned radar, at the level of the 1980s, with an effective detection range of about 120 kilometers. The main medium-range air-to-air missile mounted on the aircraft is the long-outdated AIM-7M Sparrow missile, which was finalized in 1986, and its performance has been seriously outdated in the modern air combat environment. In stark contrast, the J-15 carrier-based fighters on the Liaoning quickly catapulted into the air. These fighters are known as the shipboard version of the J-16 and are typical fourth-and-a-half-generation fighters. They are equipped with an advanced active phased array radar made of gallium nitride, with a detection range easily exceeding 220 kilometers and the ability to track and strike multiple targets at the same time. Their PL-15 long-range air-to-air missiles, with long-range, strong anti-jamming capability and large non-escape zone, constitute a whole generation of technological advantage over Japanese equipment in the field of over-the-horizon air warfare. When the air confrontation unfolded at the edge of the East China Sea Air Defense Identification Zone, it is, the huge technological generation gap was quickly transformed into an overwhelming battlefield situational awareness and deterrence advantage. According to Japan's Asahi Shimbun, citing an internal source in the self-defense forces, 4 F-15J fighters just entered the zone and were intercepted by two high-speed J-15 carrier-based aircraft. The Japanese pilot's cockpit radar warning receiver instantly sounded a sharp and ear-piercing alarm. The display appeared snowflakes or strong jamming signals, clearly showing that the other side of the fire control radar has been stabilized, locked at any time, may be attacked under the death threat. More so, the Japanese side was caught off guard. Chinese warplanes are suspected of starting a high-performance airborne electronic countermeasure system. Strong electronic interference led to the F-15J and the nearby P-3C anti-submarine patrol aircraft accompanied by avionics system appeared to be a serious disruption in the navigation and communication functions were interrupted. In this complete loss of the battlefield initiative, situational awareness is deprived of, and was firmly nailed, under the extremely unfavorable situation the Japanese fighter had no choice but to withdraw from the exercise airspace. This did not send a bomb and give up. The suppression of victory nakedly exposed the Japan Air Self-Defense Force facing the deep-seated dilemma in the limited allocation of the defense budget. In recent years, Japan's Ministry of Defense will be as high as 42% of the budget tilted to the maritime self-defense forces for large-scale shipbuilding program, while the air self-defense forces only get about 3.2% of the share for the replacement of fighter aircraft. This deformed resource allocation structure directly leading to its first-line pilots have to continue to fly these seriously aging, antique, fighter aircraft to fight against potential opponents with modern equipment. Its incompetence is a structural inevitable result. The location and route planning of the Liaoning fleet's training maneuvers contain far-reaching strategic game intentions. The Diaoyu Islands and its affiliated islands have been China's inherent territory since ancient times, and the routine training of the Chinese Navy's aircraft carrier fleet at its own doorstep is fully in line with international law and practice, and has unquestionable legitimacy and legality. The route of the Liaoning fleet sailing northward from the waters near the Diaoyu Islands, and eventually breaking through the Miyako Strait to enter the western Pacific Ocean has accurately stepped on Japan's strategically sensitive nerves. To the west, this route can effectively deter and even blockade the sea and airspace of the eastern part of Taiwan Island, which is traditionally regarded as a safe zone. To the east, it directly points to Kadena, an important U.S. military base on the Okinawa Islands. The combat radius of the J-15 carrier aircraft is sufficient to easily cover the entire Ryukyu Islands. What is particularly intriguing is that the timing of this operation occurred shortly after the so-called misfire of live ammunition by the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force in the waters near the disputed Russian-Japanese islands. Immediately afterward, the Russian side immediately announced a high-profile invitation to China to jointly hold activities in the Kuril Islands in September to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Second World War. The near-simultaneous strategic moves by China and Russia in the north and southwest of Japan have created a subtle, north-south pincer situation, which has undoubtedly exacerbated the strategic anxiety and geopolitical pressure on Japan's decision-makers. As one of the direct follow-up actions of this East China Sea encounter, Chinese marine police vessels quickly removed the navigation buoys illegally set up by the Japanese side, without authorization in the waters of the Diaoyu Islands, within 72 hours after the incident. This decisive measure is the most direct and powerful way to declare to the world that China not only has the firm will to defend its national sovereignty and territorial integrity, but also has the normalized ability to implement effective control in the relevant waters. This brief but intense air confrontation over the Diaoyu Islands will eventually be recorded in history as an important footnote in the modernization process of China's Navy. When the advanced radar beam of the J-15 carrier aircraft firmly locked onto the F15J, which represents the old era, it signaled more than just a tactical advantage brought about by the 40-year technological gap between steel and electronic components. It is a declaration of the times that an ancient ocean nation has gone through twists and turns, and is determined to firmly grasp the air and sea rights of its own destiny. At China's doorstep, the sovereignty and dignity of the country cannot be provoked in any way. In the vast sea and sky belonging to the international airways, the rights of Chinese ships and planes to freely navigate and overfly according to international law cannot be violated by any force without justification. This contest between technology and will clearly outlines the profound changes that are taking place in the power structure of the Western Pacific.